Hi, I'm Chase Tigerman. Welcome to Beyond the Sidelines. Breaking news. Trevor Lawrence officially declares for the 2021 NFL Draft.
I mean, I can't say that we didn't see this coming. He's been the number one prospect in the country for ever. And if he would have stayed another year, which would have probably ended up putting him on a better run organization, that's not the Jets or the Jaguars, he probably would have slipped a little bit. Just because if he had a down year, you can stay number one, but you can't stay number one for all 4 years of your career and then expect everyone to just think, oh, you stayed in college for a reason. People would think there was a reason he stayed in college. So I think that it's really great that he finally decided to go to the NFL.
The only reason I could have seen him staying in college is because he lost, this year's first round of the playoffs and he wanted to go out winning a national championship. But I think it's the right move for him to go into the draft this year, be the number one overall pick, go to Jacksonville and just see what he can build there. They have good weapons. Hopefully their new head coach can kind of build around him with the rest of their picks.
Yeah, I really hope that Jacksonville doesn't mess this up because they have a Super Bowl caliber quarterback in Trevor Lawrence.
100%.
Devonta Smith wins Heisman, becoming the first wide receiver to win since Desmond Howard to win it.
I think it's very impressive that a wide receiver won the Heisman. I mean, the last time it happened was a really long time ago. And it's an award mostly dominated by quarterbacks and running backs. And there's only ever been one defensive player to do it, Charles Woodson, so it's a very exclusive group to be in. And now we'll definitely see Devonta Smith in some Nissan Heisman commercials at the Heisman House. But it's very impressive. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I think he deserves it. Was the best receiver in college football this year. 98 catches, 1,400 yards, I think. 18 touchdowns. I think this solidifies himself as the first wide receiver taken. I get Jamar Chase is great, but I just think Devonta Smith winning a Heisman and with Jamar Chase opting out kind of switches their positions. Devonta Smith catches everything at him. Jamar Chase, he's got great speed, great reflexes, but again, just winning a Heisman automatically vaults you up into the highest position.
Jamar Chase is better than Devonta Smith. And that's all I have to say on that. Devonta Smith is a great wide receiver, but Jamar Chase is a super great wide receiver.
Whatever teams pick up those have a very bright future with their quarterback.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Philadelphia.
Ohio State and Alabama to play in the College Football National Championship.
I think it's going to be a very exciting game. Obviously, no one expected Ohio State to beat Clemson. Everyone predicted Alabama to beat Notre Dame, but Justin Fields coming off a career performance against Clemson, 6 touchdowns, 385 yards. Against that defense, it's impressive for him now to win a national championship, try and battle Trevor Lawrence, for the next couple of years. I'm very excited to watch this game. Even Alabama, they had 3 players on their offense in the top 5 for the Heisman voting. And that's just a ridiculous offense that they have right there.
Yeah, Alabama's ridiculous. I definitely have Ohio State probably going to end up winning it. But Alabama has just been able to do whatever they want. And I think that Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Mac Jones. So I think that might potentially give him an edge. But this is going to be a very fun game to watch.
Yeah, I just think that Alabama has the edge. And they're potentially getting Jalen Waddle back, which is obviously huge for them. Devonta Smith, like we just said, won the Heisman. Najee Harris is a top 2 running back in the college football. I just think that their offense will be too much for Ohio State to handle. So that's why I have Alabama winning it.
Who will win NFL Coach of the Year?
It's got to be Sean McDermott. I mean, you've seen what he's done. He's taken Josh Allen from a mediocre quarterback to the 3rd in the MVP voting right now. And now and then he took that defense and that was already good and made it great. And he's just been able to turn a franchise that's been kind of was sorry since the 90s. And in 3 years, he's made it a Super Bowl contender.
For me, it's got to be Matt LaFleur. I think last season, the Packers kind of did underwhelm a bit, but then now this year they're 13-3, the number 1 seed. Aaron Rodgers is playing out of his mind. I just think Matt LaFleur has kind of taken that team to another level. Devontae Adams has been great. It's all with his coaching. So I think he should win it. I get that Sean McDermott's a great head coach in Buffalo to a 13-3 season, but I think Matt LaFleur has just turned that team into a top contender every year.
What do you mean underwhelming? He went 13-3 last year. So therefore, it's less impressive that he did it this year because he did it last year too. I mean, he's a great coach. He has a top quarterback, maybe of all time. I don't think he is, but some people argue Aaron Rodgers is a top quarterback of all time. Devonta Adams has potential to be a top 10 receiver of all time, and a running back in Aaron Jones, who's a superstar. And then the depth on that team is insane. The Bills have one quarterback and one receiver, and no running game, very bad offensive line, and then their defense. And they're the number 2 seed in the playoffs right now. And I think that that's more impressive than Matt LaFleur making the 1 seed with Aaron Rodgers, Devonta Adams, Aaron Jones, and then that defense that they have there is insane too. So I think it's just less impressive that. And the strength of schedule, the NFC North is terrible, and the AFC East had Miami, and in the beginning of the season, New England looked kind of difficult. So.
Yeah, but I mean, before the season started, everyone was kind of underwhelming the Packers, thinking that Minnesota would win the division. Green Bay finishing 9-7 could miss the playoffs, and then he leads them to the number 1 seed. I just think his great coaching is why the Packers are the number 1. So I think Sean McDermott is definitely a good coach, but I just think that I trust Matt LaFleur to win it this year.
I don't think it's because of his coaching. I think it's because of this dude named Aaron Rodgers. Maybe you've heard of him. And then how he can make every receiver look good. He made Robert Tonyan look like a top 5 tight end for the entire year, and no one knew who he was before the season. I think that Aaron Rodgers should win MVP because he's the reason that team is 13-3.
Okay.
Who will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl?
There's got to be New Orleans. That team is insane. Their offense is the best offense, one of the best offenses I've ever seen, with Slant Boy and Alvin Kamara. And then Drew Brees, who honestly, if he should win the Super Bowl before he retires. I think that if he makes it this year, I don't think he'll win it, but I think he'll retire after playing in the Super Bowl.
I mean, I could see where you're coming from with New Orleans. New Orleans is my preseason pick to represent. But I'm going to say it's going to be Green Bay. Again, like you say, Aaron Rodgers, top quarterback this season, MVP for me. Devonta Adams, Offensive Player of the Year, incredible route running. I just think that no one in the NFC can handle them. We know how Tampa Bay treated them early in the season, but having to go to play at Lambeau is just too hard for any team to go. Lambeau's one of the most difficult places to play. And I think with him in that home field advantage, it's going to be difficult for teams to get past him.
I disagree. I think that, yes, going to Lambeau was hard. Yes, all the things you just said, but we saw how Aaron Rodgers looked against the 49ers in the playoffs last year. He just didn't look that fantastic. It was a good game, but he didn't look fantastic. And I think that if they have to go up against a team like the Buccaneers potentially, I think that the Buccaneers will mop the floor with them again.
I don't see it. I don't think Aaron Rodgers would let this season get away from him.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers has a choice. There's this dude named Tom Brady on the Buccaneers. So,
Who will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl?
it's going to be Kansas City, no questions asked. That offense is explosive whenever it wants to be. Patrick Mahomes can throw for 500 yards any day he chooses to. And Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, are my Offensive Player of the Year. And then that defense is underrated with Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, and then Anthony Hitchens and Reggie Ragland in the middle. I just really like this Chiefs team on both sides of the ball, and I think their explosive offense is going to get them through the playoffs.
I mean, I think Kansas City will make the AFC Championship, but I got Buffalo in the Super Bowl. I think Josh Allen has really turned this franchise around. Stephon Diggs, obviously getting them number 1 receiver is huge. Cole Beasley as the number 2. I think their offense is getting to that point where it needs to be to finally contend for a Super Bowl. And so I just think that their defense has also been getting better. Josh Allen, again, I just think he'll lead them past. And Kansas City has had a rough couple of last weeks. Barely beat Atlanta, one of their worst performances of the season. We get it that they lost the Chargers with their backups, but I just don't think that they've kind of been performing up to that Chiefs level the last 5 games outside the Bucs.
Josh Allen isn't ready to win a Super Bowl yet. He's almost there. He's on the tip of greatness. He's on the teeter-totter of greatness, and he's just not there yet. I think he's 1 to 2 more seasons away, and I think Patrick Mahomes is gonna win as many Super Bowls as he can while he's still on his rookie contract before his $50 million a year starts coming in.
We'll see. I just think that Kansas City's defense kind of fallen off. last couple of weeks, and Buffalo's has finally started to pick up again. I think Trey White, and that secondary will be enough to get them there.
I think that, one, if they do end up playing the AFC Championship, I think that the depth on the Chiefs receiving core and tight ends is going to just explode all over that Bills defense if they meet in the AFC Championship game.
Well, we'll see. I mean, everyone predicted them to blow out Atlanta, and Mahomes threw, I think, 2 picks and 2 touchdowns, but only 17 points put up.
Okay. And I think that offense, I think Andy Reid's been coaching a conservative game because he wants to win close games to show, hey, we can win close games instead of just blowing everybody out.
Well, we'll see.
All right. X factors and game picks. Up first, Colts versus Bills.
For me, my X factor has to be Isaiah McKenzie, the wide receiver. He had a great game against Miami when they destroyed him. 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. And I think if he can give Josh Allen that third read outside of Beasley and Diggs, then I think that they're going to go on to have a successful game. I don't have Buffalo winning it, but I just think Isaiah McKenzie has to be that guy to step up.
My X factor has got to be Phillip Rivers. We've seen Phillip Rivers in 2010. He was the leader of the number 1 offense in the NFL with the number 1 defense. And that team still missed the playoffs. And it's not his fault, it's the special team's fault. But I think it's got to be Phillip Rivers just because his teams always have great offenses, but I think he always slows down and plays terrible in the playoffs. Just like he's always consistent. Don't ever give Phillip Rivers a 2-minute drive in the playoffs because it leads with an interception. So I think that if Phillip Rivers plays well, gets ahead, and doesn't have to end up doing a 2-minute drill at the end of the game, I think that the Colts will win it. And I have the Colts with the upset.
Rams versus Seahawks.
I think that the X factor has got to be Shaquille Griffin. I mean, he's the number 1 corner on the Seahawks, and the Rams have a ton of wide receiving threats: Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Tyler Higbee. And I think if Shaquille Griffin can lock down just one of them, it'll give the Seahawks just enough defensive game to win, to set up the offense to win the game. And Shaquille Griffin will probably end up being on Robert Woods and maybe switching onto Cooper Kupp. So I think that if Shaquille Griffin plays a really great defensive game, that the Seahawks are going to win. However, I still have the Seahawks winning because Jared Goff might be a little off after getting surgery 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, my X factor has to be Sean McVay. If he can, I think they're going to be without Jared Goff this week again, so he's going to have to coach up John Wolford to play in a playoff game in his only second career start. So I think if he can do that, then the Rams potentially have a chance. You saw against Arizona, it was a very low-scoring game, but Wolford had a decent game for his standards. But I just think, again, whatever quarterback is playing, he has to have them ready to play in a tough environment in Seattle. I get that there's no fans, but it's always tough to go there. So I just think he has to prove that he's a good offensive play caller. So he has to coach up whoever's quarterback and to go out against that Seattle defense, which just picked up recently. But like you said, I have Seattle winning it.
I think Jared Goff is going to be starting. That's why I said that he might be a little off, because he said that he's playing this week regardless. Because he had a thumb injury, which is a very avoidable injury. He just got hit in his throwing hand weird while throwing. So I definitely think that Jared Goff will be starting, but I do have the Seahawks winning.
But there are reports saying that Sean McVay is uncertain. But like you said, I also have Seattle winning.
Bucks versus Washington.
The X factor for this game has got to be Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs is definitely going to be up against Chase Young on that side of the defensive line, and if he can hold down Chase Young, I think that and let up only 1 sack, because I feel like Chase Young is a lock for pretty much a sack a game or a couple QB hits a game. But if he can keep Chase Young off of Tom Brady, the Bucs offense will be able to get down the field. But if he can't, Chase Young will just get back there, and then it'll set up the Washington offense in perfect scoring positions. So I do have Washington winning.
My X factor has got to be Kendall Fuller. I think he's going to have to be the one to shut down Chris Godwin. I don't think Mike Evans, he's a scratch to play, but he's got to be the one to shut down whoever the number 1 target is. Godwin kind of went off against Atlanta, so I think if he plays well, kind of shuts down Godwin or AB, then they potentially have a chance. We know how good that front line is. But I think that Tom Brady's Bucs will be too much of an offensive threat. So I think Kendall Fuller will have a good game, but I just have Tampa Bay winning this one.
I still think that it's going to be Washington. I mean, Bruce Arians just said it. We're not playing 7-9 team. We're playing a 4-1 team because when Alex Smith is starting, this team is 4-1. And I that really stuck with me when I read it because that team is way better with Alex Smith at the helm. And now that he's back at the helm, healthy, it just sets up that offense and that entire team to be put in positions to win. So I could honestly see Washington making it to the NFC Championship.
I can see them pushing Tom Brady and making it closer than people are seeing out to seem. I just think that offense is too loaded for that defense. And I get their defense is top 5 in the NFL, but again, their weapons are too much. And Tom Brady, like we've said before, is one of the greatest postseason performers of all time. So I have Tampa Bay winning this one. Very close game.
I have Washington winning this one. I can honestly see this game going into overtime.
Ravens versus Titans.
The X factor for this one has got to be Hollywood Brown. He has been He was taken in the first round 2 years ago. He's been very underwhelming. He's been the number 1 target, and he's been the number 2 target, and the number 1 target has been Mark Andrews. He just needs to step up his game and just become a true number 1 wide receiver if the Ravens want to win this game. But I do have the Titans pulling it away.
Kind of on the contrary to you, I have my X factor as Miles Boykin. He's got to be that number 2 read for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson only threw 113 yards this past week, but he threw 3 touchdowns, and I think 2 of them were to Miles Boykin, who's kind of picked up steam ahead of the playoffs, kind of can turn into that number 1 guy. I think Marquise Brown is still the number 1, but he drops too many passes for me, so I think Boykin has to step up and be that that guy that can get open and get down the seam. But I have Baltimore winning this one too.
Yeah, I have Tennessee winning.
Bears versus the Saints.
My X factor has to be Emmanuel Sanders. I don't know if Michael Thomas is going to be back. They put him on IR just to keep him out of the rest of the season. So I think even if he's not, Emmanuel Sanders will be that number 1 read for Drew Brees to try and help him out down the field. And we know Emmanuel Sanders has that big play ability. So I just think if he can get down, find the open space, help out his quarterback. So I think he has to be that guy, and I have the Saints winning.
I know Michael Thomas will be back because the reports were that they were just putting him on IR as a precautionary measure. But my X factor in this game is Mitchell Trubisky. He's a streaky player, and he's been on a kind of a hot and cold streak recently. And if he wants to have even a chance in this game, he needs to be playing some of the best football of his life, going up against Drew Brees, arguably the best quarterback of all time, definitely top 3. But I have the Saints winning this one, even though the Bears' defense and their offense might be able to keep it close. It's going to be a close game, but I have the Saints edging it out.
Yeah, closer than most people think.
Yeah.
Browns versus Steelers.
26 hours ago, I would have told you it's going to be the Browns. And then the Browns don't have a head coach anymore because he got corona. I think that the head coach just presence on the sideline gives the team a whole new energy, and without it, I think the team they could either be more motivated to win, or they could just they could end up losing worse than they would before. So I have the Steelers winning this one, even though I could definitely see the Browns winning this one. And the X factor for this game has got to be James Conner. The Steelers' rushing offense has been atrocious this year, and James Conner is still widely considered to be such a good running back, even though he's injury prone and puts up only semi-decent stats when he's playing. So I think that James Conner is the X factor, and if he can play well, that the Steelers will win. Either way, I have the Steelers winning.
My X factor for this game, it just has to be Baker Mayfield. Their first playoff game since 2002. He said he was going to turn this franchise around, and he did, leading them to an 11-5 season. So I think if they want to win this game, I think he has to have the perfect game. Because we know how Pittsburgh is during the playoffs, especially at home. That defense is really good. So I think if Baker Mayfield can just, even on the run, be great, over 400 passing yards, I think that they will win. I also have Cleveland winning this one.
I think that just the lack of Stefanski on the sideline.
I also think that makes a huge difference. But the lack of Stefanski is why they'll win this game. They're going to try and push, proving that with Stefanski's a good head coach, yes, but we don't really need him, on the sidelines to coach us. We can go out there and win this game for him.
Okay.
Let's move on to NBA game picks. Let's start with the Wizards versus 76ers.
It's got to be the 76ers. The Wizards have been absolutely awful this year. Thomas Bryant dunked the ball for the other team this year. That's how bad they've been. And Russell Westbrook, assuming he decides to play, he's been putting up a triple-double almost every time he's played. Bradley Beal's been playing amazing. Just the rest of that team is non-existent. If they want to win this game, they need Rui Hachimura to step up. They need Davis Bertans to step up. So I think that it's going to be the 76ers by a long shot.
Yeah, I also have Philadelphia winning this one, like you say. Westbrook and Bradley Beal are really the only offensive threats. I just think that Ben Simmons has kind of got better. Joel Embiid's still really good. I just think that whole offense is good, even again getting Seth Curry. So I have Philadelphia winning this one in a blowout.
Yeah, me too.
Hornets versus the Hawks.
I think this is going to be a very interesting game. If the Hornets decide, hey, we're going to take our number 3 draft pick and actually give him minutes, this will be a good game. LaMelo's been averaging 18 minutes a game, playing really well in those 18 minutes, and Devontae Graham's been averaging 30 minutes a game, playing really poorly in those minutes. So I think that if you give Devontae Graham's minutes to LaMelo, that he'll be on Trey the entire game, and I think that it'll become a clinic for passing and scoring. And I think that the Hawks will edge them out in this one. But I could see this game being taken to overtime.
Yeah, and like you say, they have to give their superstar more minutes, and watching LaMelo against Trae Young will be incredible to watch. I have Charlotte winning it out, though. I think, again, if they give him those minutes, then I think he's that superstar that can win on the game. So I have Charlotte winning out a very close game.
I have the Hawks winning, though, just because of pure talent standpoints with Rondo off the bench, Gallinari off the bench, just all their off-the-bench scoring ability. If they run Rondo at the 2, they could bring Bogdan off the bench. They have I like Atlanta's depth. And then Cam Reddish or DeAndre Hunter, whoever's not starting. And I really do like Cam Reddish a lot. So I think that the Hawks, just because they have more depth, are going to win this game.
Depth is always huge in the NBA, but I just think that, even if they don't give LaMelo his minutes, him coming off the bench can make a difference. So that's why I have Charlotte winning it.
Yeah, I still have the Hawks, even if LaMelo gets his minutes. It's going to be a very fun game to watch, though.
Very fun.
Pistons versus Bucks.
It's going to be not the Buccaneers, just the Bucks by a very, very big amount. The Pistons are so atrocious this year. Blake Griffin is one of the most overpaid players in basketball right now. The only bright spot on that team right now, there's 2, and it's Killian Hayes and Derrick Rose. The 2 guards on that team, and Derrick Rose is into his 30s now, and I just think that I don't think he can lead a team to victory against a team with Giannis on it. So,
yeah, I also have Milwaukee blowing them out. I think Giannis has a very good game. Not just him, all around. Drew Bledsoe's gonna have a good game, so I have Milwaukee blowing them out.
Yeah.
Clippers versus Warriors.
This is going to be a very fun game to watch.
Game of the week.
Game of the week, maybe even game of the year. I think that Steph, they're going to try to put Kawhi on Steph, and I think Steph is just going to sauce him so hard. So I have him. I have the Steph and the Warriors winning this game.
This is going to be a very close game. Like you say, Kawhi's going to be on Steph most of the time, but that just means his other players got to get around. Draymond has to pick up the scoring. When Curry scored 63, he scored 1. So I think if he can kind of help him out with that, I think they'll win. I have the Clippers winning it in a very close one, though.
Well, it's not Draymond's job to score. He's a 100% defender. The only reason he's on the court is to defend.
True, but if you don't have anyone else outside Steph Curry scoring,
you have
Draymond Green is your other.
Andrew Wiggins, you have Kelly Oubre, you have James Wiseman, who are all viable scoring options.
But if Draymond Green's, their second best known player on that team after Steph Curry, he's got to step it up.
He's not. His job is not to score on that team, so he doesn't have to step up scoring. The other people around him need to step up scoring, so he can step up his defense.
Well, I think he still has to help out Curry. Even with the assists, he's got to help out. But I have the Clippers winning this one. Very close game.
That's it for this week's edition of Beyond the Sidelines. I'm Chase Dykema. I'm joined with Will Stevenson and Anthony.
See you next week.
See ya.